Welcome to Setting the Edge, where we are here to act basically as the offensive lineman for you to stop defenders, stop the competition, stop the numbers from reaching your backfield and setting you up for the perfect Hail Mary pass in your DFS lineups and gambling endeavors this week. I am your host, Ronnie Vaughn. You can find me on Twitter at VaughnR16. Check out the website, settingtheedge.weebly.com. SoundCloud, Setting the Edge 69. Good joke, right? And the Twitter is Setting the Edge _. This week for the NFL DFS and Gambling Show, we have two reoccurring guests, actually. And we have Eric Rasmussen. I think I pronounced that right?
Rasmussen.
At Razzle11Grinds on Twitter. He is a contributor for the DraftKings Playbook as well as DFS Report. And we also have Jim Patelis at Jim Dean King on Twitter, owner of the hashtag Kings Court DFS service. You can check him out on Twitter there. Make sure you give both of these guys a follows. And we're missing our third member today, Ryan Zammo, the co-founder of Setting the Edge and the president of the Joel Embiid fan club. He'll be riding his dick all year long in the NBA. That's not what we're here for, boys. We're here to break down this Sunday main slate for the NFL DFS players out there. Eric, how are you today, man?
Good. How are you doing?
Not bad over here. It's Thursday. We're looking forward to some good MLB playoff action and the kickoff of the NFL week as well. Jim, how are you doing over there?
I'm doing well, man. I'm looking to build off a big week 5 and keep the money flowing.
I like how you and I went from Red Sox to Cubs fans pretty quickly, but it's a story for a different day. Go Cubbies. We'll kick things off here with the 1 o'clock games. We'll start it off. The Bengals on the road to visit the Patriots. The Vegas implied total and spread here. It opened at 47.5. It is down to 47 now. And the spread opened -6.5 favorites for the Patriots, and now is at -9, -9.5 on some books. 75% of the money is on New England, and 78% of the people are on the over. Vegas is thinking this is going to be a 28-19 game. Here's some matchup information for you guys. Pats run D, they're 8th in DVOA and 11th in yards allowed per carry. The Bengals run offense is 25th DVOA and 28th in yards per carry. The Patriots pass defense is 27th DVOA and 10th in yards allowed per pass attempt. The Bengals pass offense is 10th DVOA, 5th in yards per pass attempt. And the Bengals run defense is 16th in DVOA with 23 yards allowed per carry. There's a lot of numbers here for you guys, but if anything I'm betting in this game, I'm leaning Cincinnati. You know, I'm a Pats guy. I just don't think we're going to blow them out. But what are your thoughts, Jim, here on this Bengals and Patriots game?
I'm never really a big fan of the big spreads like that. I'm not a huge fan of Cincinnati this year, but I think they're good to be putting any significant amount of money on the Patriots at 9.5 or 10 points. I do expect the Patriots to win the game, but I think that's just a little high for where I would want to go if I was, that wouldn't be my first choice.
Right.
For betting purposes, at least. For DFS, I got some likes, but if you want to go, it's up to you.
Yeah, let's hit that DFS stuff. Eric, unless you have anything for the gambling side of things here.
Yeah, I mean, gambling side, I'm actually definitely taking the Bengals plus 8.5.
Yeah, there's too much points, I think. Yeah. Too much points.
Too many points for, a team that was expected to compete for a playoff spot this year. So
exactly. That's my thoughts. And then if, Jeremy Hill is officially out, maybe changes a little more, because then they really are just going to have to get the ball to A.J. Green if they're going to do anything all game. But speaking of the DFS players in this thing, for cash games, you can't go wrong with playing Brady, I think. Honestly, he's not going to be a bad play. He's going to get 2 to 3 touchdowns and 250 to 300 yards. And speaking on the Jeremy Hill situation, if he's out, I want all the Gio Bernard in the world, I think. But I hopefully that's not a trap. Well, what are you guys' thoughts?
Hill is looking to be in. He practiced fully. He's actually not even on the injury designation on ESPN anymore. So
There
that
we go.
should answer that question for you. So yeah, otherwise, I'm not a Geo fan with Hill playing, and like I said, what he looks like he's going to. I don't really have anyone from Cincinnati this week. For the Pats, I do like Martellus. He helped me win a lot of money last week, and I obviously expect his ownership to be a lot higher this week, but I still like him a lot. I think every time the Pats get in the red zone, teams are going to key in on Gronk, which is just going to open the door for Bennett to continue to be pretty successful in the scoring department. So I'll probably be having a good amount of Bennett in my lineups this week. Brady for cash games, definitely. You can't go wrong there. You saw how well he looked, or how good he looked last week, even coming off the 4 weeks of suspension. So I'll probably have Brady for cash, Bennett for both, and I guess you could go with the James White play if for the DraftKings guys for a little upside in the RB2 spot if you're looking to go cheap there. That's all I got for that game.
Eric, how about you, man?
Yeah, I mean, offense in general is always going to be a solid cash game play with Brady and Edelman and Gronk and Bennett going forward. I'm actually on Gronk more than Bennett this week, partially just because of the skyrocketed ownership. And Gronk looked pretty good last week, so I kind of expect him to find the end zone at some point. But I actually am going, even with Hill playing, I think I am going to be on Bernard a little bit. If you're kind of looking at game script with New England being favored by 8.5, Cincinnati's going to be throwing the ball a bit more. Gio's going to see the field more than Hill, and I like his receiving upside.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. We've seen him get 11 targets, 9 receptions for 100 yards back when they were at Pittsburgh, and that was pretty ugly. And he's getting over 4 to 5 targets in each game, so there's definitely room for some upside in GPP purposes. CJ Uzama, I like in the GPP play. The Pats have been giving up yardage and about, I want to say, 5 to 8 catches for like 60 to 90 yards to all tight ends in each game this year. So it's something to take a look at if you're looking if the Bengals do get down in the red zone to toss one over to CJ. But other than that, you can't go wrong with an AJ Green GPP play. I don't think he's safe in cash at all. And same goes with like Hogan for the Pats side of things. And I don't mind the Pats defense, honestly. I really don't, but I think there's better plays at that price point. Moving on to the next game, I'm going to take a look at the 49ers at the Bills. San Fran 1-4, Buffalo 3-2. This game opened at a -7 spread in favor of Buffalo. I see it upwards around 8.5 now. The total started at 45.5 and is now at 44. The money placed on spread, about 62% on Buffalo. 90% of the money is on San Fran, as an obvious duh. And it's about 50-50 on the over and under here. Some highlights and some DVOA and yards per carry. The Bills' run defense is 6th in yards allowed per carry. The Bills' pass defense is 25th in yards allowed per pass attempt. The Niners' pass offense is 30th in DVOA and 31st in pass per attempt. The Niners' run defense is 25th in yards allowed per carry. And the Bills are 6th in run offense DVOA. First and foremost, I like San Fran +8. Also too many points. I don't care that they're going across country, and I don't care that Kaepernick is playing. Rex Ryan is on way too high of a high horse right now, in my opinion. But moving on to DFS purposes, all the Shady McCoy in the world. And I think that's all I'm looking at, to be honest with you guys. What are your thoughts on gambling and DFS purposes? Eric, we'll start with you.
Well, gambling-wise, I haven't gotten a real read. I'm seeing it as Buffalo -9. So if you like it at the 49ers +8, you absolutely got to love it at +9.
Absolutely.
But as far as DFS-wise, like I joked around this week on Twitter about a couple different players, and there is a good chance that I could end up going 100% McCoy and Bills defense. Correlated stack. I love the matchup for him. I love the fact that he's going up against Chip Kelly, who we already know he just does not like at all. So there's some extra motivation for him. Plus, I mean, that offense can't move the ball through the air, at least not consistently. So a lot of it comes down to McCoy, and even Tyrod might, end up with 60, 70 yards rushing in this game.
Yeah, I don't mind Tyrod at all. That's another – he's a perfect GPP play, I think, in here. A nice pivot off of McCoy. What are your thoughts here, Jim?
I like the Niners on the spread. I just think that's too many points for a Bills team that's really not that good in my eyes. Not to say that the Niners are any studs by any means, but I just feel like that's a lot. I think it'll be a pretty close game. I wouldn't mind taking the Niners on that, especially at 9. For DFS, there's not a whole lot to love. McCoy, as you guys mentioned, is definitely a solid option. I actually have taken a look at Carlos Hyde at 7,300 on FanDuel. I don't expect him to have much of an ownership at all. And he's just been producing. He's on the field about 85% of the snaps. He's getting plenty of carries. He's had over 20, I think, in 3 or 4 out of the 5 games. So touches are obviously key. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him go for 85-plus yards and another touchdown as a floor. He's catching, maybe 2 passes a game. I know he had 6 last week, which was nice to see. But just for a little contrarian, low ownership play, I think Hyde is a solid option at that price tag. But otherwise, I'm completely off that game. Like Bill's defense, as you said, solid option.
Yeah, I agree with that. Is there any interest in Robert Woods? Me and Eric were talking prior to this, and we're going to have to – it's looking like if you're paying up at a running back here for this week, you're going to need to find like a cheaper mid-level – not even mid-level, mid to cheap level running a wide receiver. And like Robert Woods kind of like looks right there at 5.5. Is there any like merit to play Robert Woods in cash?
Not for me. He's not as good enough of a player to – he's definitely got this as a floor. If he went 8 for 80 or if he went 2 for 20, I would say, okay, that's fine, but it surprised me. I'll put it that way. So I just don't see him in cash at all. I really don't.
All right, that's fair because he's just one of those guys that was falling in that Cameron Meredith territory where I'm like, am I really going to be stuck playing with these guys in cash? Hope not. Tourney only. Like a little stack with him and Tyrod, T-Mobile. Any last thoughts on this game, Eric?
Maybe some Charles Clay. As he's getting healthier, I can see him start to lead the team in targets wise, just because the receiving core is kind of, not very good, I guess would be the best way to put it. So, he has 5 catches in 3 out of the last 4 weeks. And even 3 weeks ago, I think that's the week he got hurt and only saw 2 targets. So since coming back, he's got 10 catches on 12 targets. So I kind of expect him to see a little more usage. And on teams that if I don't use McCoy, I will find ways to get Clay in somewhere. But right now, I'm basically all McCoy in this game.
Yeah, I'm with you. He is the best talent they have on the exterior. Charles Clay, something to take a look at. Moving to the next game, we're going to take a look at here. Eagles at the Redskins. Eagles are 3-1, and the Skins are 3-2. This game opened at a pick'em, and now is sitting minus 2.5 in the favor of the Eagles, with 63% of the money on that. And then Washington, 65% of the money is on them. 93% of the money is on the over, and the over right now is 44.5, and it opened at 46. I've seen up to 45 again as well. The Vegas implied total here is aiming for around 24 to 21-ish area, 23.75, whatever. Here's some highlight standout stuff for you guys. The Redskins' run defense is 32nd in DVOA and 32nd in yards allowed per carry. The Eagles' pass offense is 7th in DVOA. Their run defense, Eagles' run defense is 7th in DVOA, and their pass defense is 3rd in DVOA. If anything here, I'm leading the Washington Redskins plus 2.5 at home. Philly kind of shit themselves last week, and if I know anything about a Philly team, they kind of go in streaks like this. And I kind of like the under two. These NFC East games are just gross. Looking at things in a cash game perspective for this, I don't have anyone really I'm looking at in cash. Honestly, I don't really like anyone here. But I love me some Ryan Matthews in GPP. And if there's any more news about Jordan Reed being out at all, honestly, Jamison Crowder comes way up on my radar as that guy I'll be looking at in cash potentially to take those targets away and, maybe have a solid game for me. Raises his floor a significant amount, I think. And Deshaun's been in and out, so Crowder's value could rise a bit if Jordan Reed is out with this concussion. Jim, why don't you start us off here? All your thoughts.
As you said, I mean, anytime you're looking at a division game in the NFC East, I totally agree. I don't really see a ton of scoring. I'm not really interested in anybody in this game. At the moment, I have 0 shares of anyone from either side. But I did like the comment you made about Crowder if Reed is out, and just complete speculation. But Reed has had a major concussion history. He has now another one, so he's had 5 or 6 documented. You probably figure there's another 5 or 6 undocumented. I mean, this guy. Worst case scenario, obviously, I'm thinking there's a very possible chance that he might be retiring very soon. That's a lot of concussions to have. I don't see any reason for them to rush him back, being as he's such a key piece of their offense. So I would expect him to be out more than in. And like you said, I think that would give a nice boost to Crowder. But otherwise, I'm off this game completely.
I guess maybe we can look at like Zach Ertz a little bit, and I know that's where you were going to go with Eric. Did you have anyone else that you were going to touch upon besides maybe a little bit of Ertz action?
I actually really like this game from the GPP side of it. You have a number of guys that can explode and go for monster games. I know the low point total is something to kind of look at, and it does scare me. But for Washington, Deshaun Jackson obviously loves to make Philadelphia pay for, the way they treated him.
Yep.
Jamison Crowder definitely is somebody that's been on my list. I actually wrote him up as a sneaky stack to add with the Redskins defense this week.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I'm kind of on the Redskins defense as a GPP play is in the past we've seen like rookie quarterbacks come in, play hot for a while, and as soon as they make that first mistake, they come crashing down a little bit, and then there's a few weeks of, where they start turning the ball over a little bit more. And you have to remember, Wentz's last pass last week was picked off for his first interception of the year. So, I like Jamison Crowder he's leading the NFL in punt return yards. Obviously, you don't get points for the yardage, but, he's dangerous in that game. He does have 1 return for a touchdown already. And the Eagles' punt return coverage team are allowing 34 yards per return right now. So, that's something that I looked into. And then, obviously, from the Eagles side, I love Zach Ertz. He killed me last week. He had such a great matchup. So, I'm definitely going to go back to him again because most people will go off of him because of that. And then, obviously, your Ryan Matthews talk. As the week's gone on, I've become a bigger and bigger fan of his. As long as he can get over that fumble that he had late last week, he should be a great matchup.
Yeah, I'm with that too, and I like the idea of doing a little Redskins Crowder stack. We saw him take one back against Baltimore, which says he can't do one against the Eagles. And your point about Deshaun Jackson making the Eagles punished for treating him like shit, pretty much. So that's something also to take a look at. Jim, you have any final thoughts on this game?
No, that's it, man. I'm not, like I said, not too interested in that one.
All right. Next game it's pretty much real basic outlook for this game. Browns at the Titans. 0-5 Cleveland Browns. 2-3 Titans. This game opened at -6. I'm seeing up to like -7, -7.5 in favor of Tennessee. And the line is hopped down a little bit. Started at 45.5. I see 43.5 on my book. The money is split right now, about 50-50 on the spread, and the over is getting hammered in this, even though there is negative line movement. 86% of the money is on. Actually, no, 67% of the money is on the over. I read that log. So some key matchups information here. The Browns' run offense is in 4th in yards per carry. The Titans' pass defense is 8th in DVOA. The Titans' run offense is 3rd in DVOA and 2nd in yards per carry. And the Browns' pass defense is 28th in DVOA and 23rd allowed per pass attempt. If anything, if there's been a gambling trend for me this week, I've been taking all the big dogs. It's really going to be one of those like picking up the dog shit and you're holding that in your card as your ticket. But it could be some cash potentially. I like the Browns +7. Looking at this game, there's 2 cash game players I think that are totally 3 actually that are totally fine. DeMarco Murray at 8.8 on FanDuel. Delaney Walker, I want to say 6.7, and then the Tennessee defense at 4.7. Those are the 3 guys I'm looking here in a FanDuel perspective. Every week I love Isaiah Crowell in GPPs, and I love Mariota in a GPP as well. I think there's merit for both of those players. Crowell is one of the highest graded runners on Pro Football Focus, and it's just he's on a really shitty team, so it's real tough for him. And I think the prior hype has kind of stopped a little bit, but I'm not really on him necessarily. Cody Kessler will be playing. He's been practicing today, so he will be playing for the Browns, it's looking like. But besides from the Tennessee defense, DeMarco Murray, and a little bit of Delaney Walker in there, there's not much fantasy goodness per se, in my opinion. Eric, what are your thoughts on the Browns and Titans?
Well, kind of looking at it the same way I was looking at the Bills, where I was saying I could go 100% McCoy in Buffalo. I think you can go 100% DeMarco Murray in Tennessee and be just fine. I'm actually on, not for FanDuel cash, but DraftKings cash, I'm actually looking at Mariota if I want to pay down for a quarterback. Mm-hmm. He's not cheap enough on FanDuel just because Derek Carr is just 300 more on FanDuel. Yeah. But DraftKings definitely Mariota. And you can definitely get away with a Mariota, Murray, and Delaney Walker stack since that's basically their entire offense. Mm-hmm. As far as the gambling side of it, I'm actually liking Tennessee to cover the 7, and then I'm definitely on the over as well. Partially because I do think Cleveland does find a way to score a little bit, but I think Mariota's got some confidence after going into Miami last week and putting up the game that he did. Yeah. So coming back home, I think that kind of continues.
Yeah, he's at 6.1 on DraftKings. It's a really great price. And then that three-man stack there, honestly, is fine with me. Even if you want to toss the Tennessee defense in there, because Cleveland does find a way to score, but Tennessee is the very popular defense pick of the week I'm seeing across the industry. Jim, what are your thoughts on this game?
I really like the Browns +7 a lot. Tennessee is just not very good. I think it'll be a closer game than 7. I was surprised to see it so high, but DFS wise, I love DeMarco Murray. As you know, I ranted and raved about him last week. I've now used him 4 weeks in a row, and might as well just go ahead and make it 5. He actually had his worst game of the year this past week, where he had 16 FanDuel points. That's pretty damn impressive. He's going to get 20 touches. I think he's had 5 targets in all but 1 game, which is awesome. I just think they're going to feed him, and he's going to have another pretty much 20-point FanDuel game, which is great. So he's a very, very solid RB1 with a pretty high floor and a pretty solid upside. For the Browns, I also like Crowell at 6,500. Not my top choice, but another guy who get the touches. I would be very surprised to see Tennessee run away with this game, so I think Crowell will be used throughout the game, which is solid. So I like him at 6,500. I think he's a guy who could grab you a couple touchdowns and really be a really key play for tournaments. On the defensive side, I'm not really in love with either, but I could see going with Tennessee, like you guys both said. Not a bad idea. Delaney Walker's not a bad idea, but like I mentioned earlier, I think I'm going to be going with Bennett for a little. I think he's a couple $100 less than Walker. Really not interested in using. I just think he's too much of a risk. I just think he's too inconsistent for me to really throw any significant money on him. Just with so many other options out there, I'd rather pay up some extra money and get somebody who I at least know is going to bring me, X amount of points.
Yeah, I agree with all your points there. Makes a lot of sense for me. Eric, any closing words for this game?
Not really. I don't really like any of Tennessee's receivers, even though Cleveland's been terrible against them.
That's true.
What are you going to go with, Andre Johnson?
Yeah, it's a crapshoot if you're going to try to pick one of those wide receivers to get you a touchdown, and it's not worth my effort in putting them in a GPP, in my opinion. Moving on to the next game, we got the Ravens at the Giants. What am I seeing here for a spread right now? I'm seeing Giants are opened at -3 and are still at -3, and the over/under hasn't changed either. It's about 44.5 still. I'm seeing on my book. 60-40 spread on the money with the Giants. More money on the over, just by a tad bit. And obviously, the people are punching those Baltimore money line tickets. So the Giants' defense is 5th in yards allowed per carry. Their pass defense is 8th in yards allowed per attempt. Ravens' pass offense is 27th DVOA and 32nd in yards per pass attempt. No more Mark Trestman in Baltimore, so we'll see how that offense changes. The Ravens' run defense is 1st in DVOA and 7th in yards allowed per carry, and the Ravens' pass defense is 2nd in yards allowed per pass attempt. If I'm leaning anything here, it's Giants -3. The Baltimore seems to be in shambles after that disgusting loss last week, and they fired their offensive coordinator. And I think they need a week to get it together. And I think OBJ finally has his week where he blows up. But by no means he's in my DFS cash lineup. If anyone I like in this for cash, in my opinion, is Dennis Pitta. I think Giants have been kind of susceptible to tight ends this year, and I think Pitta is a decent option. There's better, there's worse. GPPs, all the OBJ. Give me all the OBJ. I'm not playing Eli ever again. I'm sorry, I just can't do it. And I don't hate Will Tye too. That's my boy. And I don't hate Terrence West either. I feel like they might just try to, get him going again if they can't do anything else on offense. Other than that, I'm not really looking very far in this game. Jim, what do you got for me with your Giants here?
I'm disgusted with the Giants. I'm so upset. I hate McAdoo. I think he's the worst coach in the NFL right now. He's killing me. With everything he does is wrong. He makes all the wrong decisions all the time. And I think it's really hindering the Giants as a whole. Eli has clearly been off, which has been disappointing. Beckham had, finally scored a touchdown, but he missed him on multiple passes. He had him on a crossing route for probably 15 yards that he just missed. He had him on a deep route, probably 20, 25 yards that he missed. If I think Beckham, if he had a real quarterback out there last week, would have had, 8 for 100 plus and a touchdown, and everybody would be pretty quiet on the Beckham front. But hopefully this is the week they turn things around for me as a fan and anyone in New York, but I'm not holding my breath, so I'm going to stay off that -3. Cash games, I'm not really interested in anybody. Like you mentioned, Pitta, I think he's a decent option, especially if Steve Smith and Wallace are banged up and out. He's definitely going to move up the totem pole there and probably end up with 7 catches, I would imagine. But things I like Beckham for tournaments. I will say I don't have him in right now, but he's always an option, of course. And Will Tye is another solid low-cost play. For anybody that watched the game last week, they know he had what was a 50, 60-yard touchdown where Eli again just straight up missed him in the seam with nobody around him. So I think he's a quality low-cost option, like you said, and that's all I got for that one.
Eric, what about you?
I guess I'm not using much from the Giants. Hearing that Jennings is going to play. So I don't really know how their running back situation is going to shake down. I've been using Rainey a little bit the last couple of weeks as a cheap running back, but I think I have to kind of get off of him because Eli doesn't look right. I was big on Beckham last weekend, thought he'd have a much bigger game, but until I see this offense do it, I think I have to get off of him. As far as the Will Tye, the only thing that scares me on that is Baltimore is number 3. In terms of defense against tight ends. And Ty's not exactly a super athletic guy that, that can make teams pay even if they are solid against tight ends. So, but as far as like Baltimore, I really do want to use some Terrence West and GPPs. Trestman got fired basically because he stopped giving West the ball last weekend. He was averaging – it was like 9 yards of carry in the first half and just didn't touch the ball in the second half, which made no sense because it was a close game. So I kind of want to see them try to feed him a little bit this week. And then at wide receivers, I posted a poll on Twitter earlier today, kind of asking people who they would go with if there was no Smith and Wallace. And the obvious answer was Pitta, which, was 38% of the votes. Kamar Aiken was second at 23%, and then third was none of the above at 21%, which I found kind of odd because my choice out of all the receiving options then for tournaments would be Brashad Perriman. He only got 18% of the votes. He's min-priced on everywhere you look. And the one thing with the Giants defense is they're getting destroyed by number 2 wide receivers. They're 31st against the number 2 wideouts. So, they're just giving it up. So I kind of like Perriman as a deep GPP flyer, I guess. Yeah,
if all the news points to him getting into that number 2 spot there, all the merit to it at 4.9 on FanDuel, which is almost dirt cheap, 4.5. And then on DraftKings, you said he's maybe a little bit above minimum price.
He's exactly min price. He's 3K
price. Yeah, you can do a lot with that, especially if the news comes your way. So stay tuned to those Ravens beat writers. They can be your best friends. Any closing thoughts on this game? I don't really have much else in my opinion.
Hopefully the Giants wake the fuck up.
Yeah, that's for sure. Ben McAdoody. Ugh, he's been terrible. Next game, fantasy goodness. Let's go. Carolina Panthers, New Orleans Saints. Both Panthers are 1-3, and 1-4. New Orleans is 1-3. The over/under is at 54 on my book right now. It opened up at 53. And Carolina started as a -2 favorite, and now they're a -3. The money on the spread is about split right now, and the money is all on the over pretty much. Everyone's betting the over here. Saints suck at defense, and the Panthers aren't good either thus far. That's my notes. They haven't proved themselves, and the Saints can't guard anyone. Love Carolina -3, and I love the over, of course. I mean, why wouldn't you want to root for the over in this game when you're going to have a lot of fantasy investment in this game? So the question I'm going to propose to you guys is, who would you rather go at quarterback? Drew Brees in the Superdome or Cam Newton?
Oh, Drew Brees for me.
Yep. What about you?
Brees.
All right, same. All right, so we're all in agreement there. Save the value, Gil Brees. So with Brees pretty much locked up, and I want to say he's going to be about 20-something to 25, maybe 30% owned in 50-50s, I'd say, between 20 and 30. The question is, what receivers are we going to get involved in this game? And like, who are we looking at here? You got Olsen, you got Michael Thomas, Brandon Cooks, you got Kelvin Benjamin. And then the news bomb got dropped on us today that Kelvin is questionable. Well, who are we looking at here, you guys? Are we looking at the Saints run game potentially, maybe get some sneaky points out of that? You know, Brandon Cooks is as safe as it gets at home. I want to say 8 of his touchdowns are in his last 7 games at home. And then Olsen, we saw him light it up last week. We know what he can do. Michael Thomas is a mid-tiered price guy. I want to say he's 5.4. And I want to say that he is seeing more of the red zone targets than any of the other receivers have. And it's something to look at 5.4. And when building my cash lineup, one of the receivers in this game is going to be in my lineup, and I'm going to have Drew Brees. Jim, take it away. What do you got?
Yeah, I like Michael Thomas a lot, 5,400. I am a little worried about him for cash games because, you know, a lot of people have been saying, well, he's been doing well the last couple weeks, but is that just strictly tied to Snead's injury, or is, you know, he going to have a bigger piece of the pie going forward? I'm not really sure. I definitely like him, but like I said, I'm not 100% sold on if I'm going to actually lock him into the lineup. But if you are looking for a cheap receiver, that's definitely an option. I do love Cooks, 7,500, solid price, solid productions coming. Breeze and Cooks, you know, you can't go wrong there. For the run game, I'm not buying into either side. I want to see obviously what Stewart has to bring to the table coming off of his injury. And Olsen, I'm not gonna spend that much on tight end. I can't justify going $8,000 at that position. Like I said, and I've said it once or twice, I'll say it again, I would much rather spend on Martellus this week.
There you go.
So that's all I got for the.
There you go. Eric, what are your thoughts?
You know, I guess I have quite a bit to say about this game. You know, one, with Cam Newton, what I'm worried about is him being as effective as he normally is. You know, he relies a lot on his scrambling ability, and that's what makes him such a safe cash game play, is because of his ability to get in the end zone running the ball, you know, especially inside the 5-yard line. I have a feeling they're going to kind of try to shy away from some of those calls because they need to keep him from just getting hit again. You know, he easily could have had a concussion week 1. You know, the whole issue with them not taking him out of the game, even though he clearly took a shot to the head. You know, that part just scares me. I love Greg Olsen. Don't really love him on FanDuel because of the price. I like him on DraftKings. You know, I think he's like 6 or 7K on DraftKings. I just love the way he's playing. One thing that's shocking is, you know, for how bad the Saints defense is, they're actually number 6 overall against wide receiver ones. So they're basically they're blanketing their coverage to wide receiver ones, and they're letting, you know, running backs and then wide receiver 2s beat them. Which, you know, normally I'd be all over Carolina's running game, but Jonathan Stewart's supposed to be back, and he's just not somebody that I think can take advantage of the Saints defense in terms of catching the ball in the backfield and breaking any kind of long runs. So I actually might be off of Carolina's offense, which is kind of tough to say with such a high over-under. As far as the Saints, you know, you have to be on them anytime they play at home. Drew Brees is just ridiculous. He's thrown, you know, 3 touchdowns in like 8 or 9 straight home games or something ridiculous like that. And the one nice thing is Carolina gets beat by wide receiver 1s and in the slot, and they actually take away wide receiver 2s. But I think it's part of the reason they don't give it up to wide receiver 2s is because, you know, they're getting beat constantly by top wide receivers and tight ends. So they just don't see the ball as much.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, for tournaments, I do like Ingram as a play in this game too. Most people automatically, when they see the Saints at home, they want to go to the passing game, even for both teams. And I think the running game is the sneaky one in this game.
Yeah, I got Ingram in my GPP lineups right now. He's been getting kind of screwed over here, and the touchdowns gonna come his way eventually. I think he's a top 10 back in this league through and through. So definitely gonna have good exposure to this. And I think you might have talked me off of playing some Panthers players, maybe even betting the Panthers all in general. But we'll see game time what I end up rolling with. Next game we're gonna roll to the Jags at the Bears. The over/under, it opened up at 47.5 and is now 46. And the spread is favored in Chicago at -2.5 right now. It opened at -1.5. I'm locking in the Jags plus 2.5. I'll take the Jags, whatever the hell the spread they are. Might even take a money line because they're going to win this game. You know what? No, I'm taking the money line. Jacksonville's going to win this game, my opinion. Neither team has been as bad defensively as you might think. And they kind of got dicked over on some touchdowns, in my opinion. I don't want to get too deep into that, but my one thought is there's not many three-down backs in the NFL, right? And Jordan Howard is one of them. Even though his price has gone up a bit, I think he's one of the best game flow independent backs in a pretty good spot here in a close game. I love me some Jordan Howard. If I'm not paying up for both McCoy and Murray in my cash games, I'm going all to Jordan Howard. And I don't hate Allen Robinson either if you got the value. I love playing him anytime I can. I think he's a machine at 8.6. I think it's a great price for Chicago. You know, they've looked all right, but I think Blake Bortles is getting it together. They started off slow. It's a matter of time before he just blows up here. And the elephant in the room, Cam Meredith, and playing him in cash. Now let's have a little debate here because I want to say outside of maybe Zach Miller, and unless you're playing down at Hoyer and like in cash, it's really looking like you're going to play a little bit of Howard or Cam Meredith in that case. But what are you guys' thoughts on him this week?
I'm super up in the air myself. I really do like rolling with Hoyer, and I pretty much have to stack him with somebody. So I have been looking at Meredith quite a bit. At his price, you obviously have the ability to go up elsewhere. So I don't think he needs to do a ton to make it worth the investment. I do think he's going to see at least 7, 8 targets. It's just a matter of if he sees those 7 or if he sees, what did he see, like 11 or 12 last week?
I believe it was 11.
Yeah, so I think he's good for about 7, which I think would give him plenty of opportunity to reach his value and make him at least a usable play. But you're definitely going to be holding your breath a little bit for cash games. Obviously, he's no sure thing. What do you think, Eric?
I mean, talking about him, you know, obviously before we jumped on, I don't think Meredith is a cash game play. He had a big week, but that was, you know, against, you know, the 30th ranked pass defense in the NFL. Indy was just terrible. So, you know, I'm kind of torn. You know, before last week is, you know, the game before that he had 4 catches for 28 yards. So he wasn't exactly getting downfield, and then all of a sudden last week he was this downfield threat. So, you know, in this game I definitely lean Jordan Howard. And at some point, Jeffrey's going to have a game. I just don't know when it's going to be. So I don't know. I understand he's being so cheap on FanDuel at 54. He does a lot. I think he's probably better for cash than Michael Thomas is at 5,400. But I actually might try to go up to 5,700, maybe to somebody like Tavon Austin over him in a pretty good matchup. But you know, as far as this game in general, I don't know what to think. Just because I don't like Bortles on the road. He tends to make some dumb mistakes. You know, I always love Allen Robinson, especially Bortles did come out saying he just has to give him more opportunity to make plays. So I can definitely see Robinson getting some bubble screens or something like that just to get the ball into his hands. But aside from him, I don't think I'm really touching this game.
Yeah, that's, you know, I don't mind me some Zach Miller, I guess. And Alan Hearns is just the all-time GPP play, and that's about it. Any other thoughts on this game?
No,
I also love Allen Robinson. He's actually already in my lineup, and I feel pretty good about that. I think he's going to continue to get better and better. He's too good of a wide receiver, even with Bortles struggling a little bit. You know they're going to throw the ball. You know he's going to have his targets. He's going to get at least 10 targets, and I think this is a week where he really breaks out.
There we go. Let's move on to the next game. Speaking of a little bit of Tavon Austin, the Rams going out to Detroit to play the Lions. The line opened up at 2.5 here, is now at -3. And the over-under is still seated at about 44, 43.5. I'm not really interested in that game all that much. But for the people that are looking at potentially a little bit of Theo Riddick, maybe, I want to break down the targets for the Lions in the last few weeks. Marvin Jones with 41, Theo Riddick with 32, Golden Tate with 31, Anquan Bolden with 28, and then Ebron with 25. If I'm leaning anywhere, I think I'm leaning Detroit -3. Just my theory of Jeff Fisher plays 500 ball all year. He's going to go to 3-3 next week. Other than that, I love me some Gurley and GPPs. I'm still not ready to play him in cash yet. Although he is one of the most talented backs, he doesn't stay on the field long enough for me. Even though he has been getting those catches yet, I'm just not ready to play him in cash. And I'll say it every week. I'll play Tavon Austin, Rams defense stack every week in the GPP. It's going to happen, folks. It's going to happen. Aside from that, I don't have much to say. Don't play Golden Tate, whatever you do. What are your thoughts, Eric?
I obviously mentioned Tavon Austin already. The Lions are absolutely atrocious in the slot. Austin could definitely, destroy them over the middle. I actually think Gurley is kind of safe for cash this week. Starting to see more touches, catching a couple passes out of the backfield now, and the Lions just lost Haloti Ngata. So he's going to be out for a little bit. So that's a big piece in the middle of their defense. So I do think Gurley's actually in play, especially because it's a 3-point spread and a small over-under. So this game should stay close the entire time. As far as Detroit, I'm actually hearing that Theo Riddick is very questionable this week. Last I read or heard. And if he happens to miss the game, Justin Forsett is basically free everywhere. The only problem is I don't know how much of the offense he knows. So if Forsett is kind of in play and Riddick's out of play, I don't really know who you go with on Detroit. Just all Marvin Jones and hope he gets 15 targets, or or does Golden Tate then become in play and they kind of throw him some swing passes out of the backfield or something?
That's what
just to change things up.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like, honestly. You look at the Lions running backs, it's Zach Zenner and Dwayne Washington, unless they give the ball just strictly to Forsett there, and that's just disgusting. And I guess if he's out, then you got to look at Golden Tate and GPPs, even though people play him every week anyway. And then Marvin Jones just in cash, maybe as the only form of offense at 7.7, but I don't know if I'd be paying for that at all, or anyone involved in this game overall. Jim, you have any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I'm actually pretty upset about the Theo Riddick news. I tweeted that out probably about an hour ago, maybe, that he had missed practice Wednesday and Thursday, which is always worrisome. I have him in season long, and I've been plugging him in every week and loving him, so I'm pretty down right now that I'm expecting him to not play or play injured. Washington also has been extremely limited in practice. I guess he just worked with the trainers on the side of the field today. So he's very questionable. So I don't really see how you can get part of that offense this week and feel good about it.
Yep. And we'll close it off there. Next game, favorite game, Steelers at the Dolphins. I see Steelers are -7.5, -8 favorites with an over-under at 48, opened at 48.5. Here's something for you guys, and it's everyone's favorite stat when it comes to Big Ben, how he does on the road and how he does at home. In 17 home games, he averages 342 yards per game, 3 touchdowns, and 0.76 interceptions. In his 16 road games, he throws for 286 yards, 1 touchdown per game, 1.06, and 1 interception per game. Those are big number differences there. But I'm not looking at the Pittsburgh passing offense technically in cash games here. If anyone I'm going with, I'm going to play Le'Veon Bell because they're lining him up in the slot, and he has not gotten a touchdown yet this year. The variance is way too high. It's all reading to play Le'Veon Bell. He didn't get a touchdown yet. He's going to get all the carries in the world. I think he's going to break one off against these pathetic Dolphins who cannot stop the run at all. And Big Ben has been significantly worse on the road, passing the ball than he has at home. So give me all the Le'Veon Bell in the world. And I love Jarvis Landry as well. He had quite the shitter week for everyone that was on him on cash last week. With 6.9 on FanDuel is something that I'm looking at. That's where I got some value left over. And since the Dolphins can't seem to figure out how to run the ball, they got to get the ball to Jarvis Landry. They need to get all the balls to him about 15 times. In a sneaky GPP stack, I will play me some Ryan Tannehill in case this game gets into a shootout. Eric, let's start with you with this game.
Just everybody on the Steelers offense. I know, everybody's going to see the home away splits for Roethlisberger, and, for the most part, they kind of, a lot of quarterbacks take a hit when they go on the road just because they're so used to playing at home. One of the things that skewed his away stats for, a few years was having to face the Ravens and the Bengals, on the road in division games. So, those can skew it a little bit. Plus, we're talking about the Dolphins defense that just made Mariota look really good last week while playing at home as well. So I just can't fade Big Ben yet. I mean, just because he has the ability to throw for 450 and 5 touchdowns, without even trying really. Le'Veon Bell for sure he actually, might be my number 1 cash running back, ahead of Murray or McCoy. I really expect him to go nuts in this game. And then, there's a lot of people worried about Sammy Coates because they say, he had a soft cast on his hand and wondering what was going on. I don't think people realize he had cut his hand in the game last week and got 7 stitches, but he should end up being fine this weekend. And I'm actually using the Steelers defense. They're sliding up my list a little bit. The Dolphins had a pretty big roster shakeup this week. They released 3 offensive linemen. 2 of them actually started last week. So there's a big mix-up on their offensive line. I don't see that going well for their offense, especially having to take on a Steelers team who, loves to throw the ball around. And the Dolphins have to play catch-up in any way. I see Tannehill just running for his life.
Yeah, I can see that happen a lot. And I like that note there. The 3 of the offensive linemen cut and 2 of them were starters last week. Something to take a look at. Steelers are the most expensive defense on FanDuel. Are they on DraftKings as well? Jim, what do you got for us, though?
I was looking at that same stat that you were about the Steelers and Big Ben on the road. I did have a lot of good feelings about rolling out Roethlisberger this week. I love Le'Veon Bell this week. I do like Coates this week. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on that cast situation. I know, like you said, they said he had 7 stitches in his hand. So that's something to keep an eye on, although I do expect his ownership to go up just from his explosion last week, which won me a lot of money, which was lovely. I have them in my lineup right now. The Dolphins have been atrocious. Ryan Tannehill is disgusting. He's completing like 12 passes a week. It's pretty bad. I wouldn't be surprised if they thoroughly dominated the Dolphins and Tannehill, like you said, was going to be running for his life all game long. Steelers, what's the spread on that again?
I'm seeing -7.5.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I think the Steelers should take that easy.
Yeah, I bet against the Steelers last week. I bet the Jets, and that didn't turn out well for me at all. So, screw me on that one, right? I was actually thinking about betting every spread that was over a touchdown for the dog. I was considering doing that this week. But hey, we'll see. It's tough to bet against Big Ben, the Triple B, Ben, Brown, and Bell. It's really tough, but we'll see. I like Jesse James though, but I think he's a cheap option to get some exposure to Big Ben. They love throwing to him in the red zone, and the dude is like 6'8", 6'11", 6'7". He's freaking huge. So if they're in the red zone, right over the middle, everyone's gonna be looking at all the receivers, and big Jesse James is gonna come stumbling in for a touchdown. Another game I like for the 4 o'clock games. Now moving on to Chiefs at the Raiders. This game opened up for -2 in favor of Oakland. I see it now as a pick'em, and it opened up at 48.5. So over under, and now it is at 47. Another one of the teams I love betting this year is the Oakland Raiders, and I'll be taking them once again. Honestly, the Raiders have been pretty putrid on defense. They are 30th in yards allowed per carry, and they are 31st allowed per pass attempt and 29th in their DVOA for the pass defense. But the Chiefs' run defense has been equally as bad. The Chiefs' pass defense has been okay this year, but that does not steer me away at all from going Amari Cooper in cash. I probably will play him every week in cash until FanDuel gets in DraftKings get his value right. He is at 7.1, and for the amount of talent that receiver has, I think that's disrespectful. At 7.1, he's pretty much locked and loaded into all my lineups. I don't mind Derek Carr in cash game. Honestly, he's been one of the quote-unquote MVP performers this year. If you look at what he's doing with this team and how young it is, and his pose, he's kept his pose the entire year. Alex Smith in cash games. I've heard a lot of rumbles with that, with how bad the Raiders have been on on defense. They're looking like the Chiefs' offense could be able to get some points here, and it all starts with Alex Smith. But what does scare me is Jamal Charles is back this week, but we have no clue what is going to happen yet. So that's something to stay tuned for. And I love me some Travis Kelce. I want to say the Raiders are top 5, top 3 worst teams against defending the tight end, and I think Kelce is the best receiver they have, honestly. I'm not huge on Jeremy Maclin. Some are, and that's going to be a popular GPP play, but I love me some Travis Kelce here. And I like Crabtree in GPPs rather than cash, where I like Amari Cooper. Eric, what do you got for this game? Chiefs, Raiders.
Trying to decide which way I want to go with the Chiefs offense. On DraftKings, Jamal Charles is 5,100, and there's a lot of talk this week about the training wheels coming off, him saying that he's 110% and ready to go. I have a feeling he's going to be a big part of the offense. The Raiders are pretty terrible against running backs, in the pass game. They're actually 28th versus running backs receiving wise. So, I could definitely see Charles having a bigger piece of this of the pie this weekend, I guess. I don't know what to do with Maclin. He's had a couple of plus matchups and he hasn't really done much yet this year. Kelce is always somebody I like. And Alex Smith, they're going to have to pass in this game. It's just which Alex Smith is going to show up is the big question.
Yep.
Kind of looking game log wise, let me see if I can bring it
He
up.
threw the ball 50 times against Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
I think he's going to throw the ball. That's up here.
Threw the ball 50 times, but still only ended up with 18.68 fantasy points on FanDuel.
Yeah.
It's a ton of attempts. I mean, even week 1 versus San Diego, he threw the ball 48 times.
And that's
that week
the season there.
Yeah, that week he ended up throwing for 360. So, he has the ability to do it. It's just the consistency wise. I can't trust him in cash. I will definitely have him in some tournaments just because I love game stacking different games. So I'll obviously have him. As far as Oakland goes, I'm with you on Amari Cooper. Real big fan of him again this week. Read something that Crabtree lines up most of the time on the right side, and Marcus Peters plays that side of the ball like 90-some% of the time. So Kansas City doesn't shadow, but I expect to see Peters on Crabtree quite often. So for me, that kind of takes him out of play.
Yep. I love seeing Amari Cooper just go running down the top of my screen and just on a deep pass, and you see Derek Carr just air it out to him. And it was awesome to see last week. He finally brought one in. First touchdown since last December. So get these touchdowns rolling for Amari Cooper. We know how FanDuel was more reliant on touchdowns than DraftKings is specifically. Jim, what is your thoughts on this game?
I'm also a big Cooper fan. It was, like you said, it was pretty nice to watch him finally break out this year and have himself his big game. I do like Crabtree, so I am kind of up in the air on which one I want to roll with. I know you said you wanted to go with Crabtree for GPP and Cooper for cash. I'm honestly not really sure which way I want to go. I'll most likely roll with one of them this week somewhere, but I really am not sure yet. For the Chiefs, I do like Macklin a little bit for his price. 6,900 is not too bad. I think they'll definitely score some points. I definitely can't get behind Alex Smith. You know, if he threw for 170 yards this week, it wouldn't surprise me in the least. I think he's more apt to do that than throw for 300. So I'll be definitely avoiding him regardless of the matchup and the price. I do want to see what Charles has to offer this week. I would never use him, but I want to see how the touches are divvied up with him and Ware. And Kelsey is not on my radar. I don't know. I just feel like, what's he at, 65, 6,400?
Yeah, it's right in Bennett's range, and Bennett is your guy, so it's
Yeah. I don't know. He's gonna get you 5 or 6 catches, but he just really hasn't blown me away. I think he's had like a couple of games with like 9 or 10 points, something like that. I mean, that's not gonna kill you, but I don't love it at the same time. So I'll probably end up fading him, and looking, like I said, Crabtree and Cooper will be my 2 guys for that game.
Yep. And I love the Carr, Crabtree, Cooper. Oh, triple C's. There you go. The triple C stack here in a GPP. I did it last week. It was all right. It did all right. I also had Cam Meredith as my 3rd guy, so that kind of helped out a lot. Let's move on to another a game where I don't know if you guys would be very interested in this game whatsoever. We have the Atlanta Falcons at the Seahawks. It's a good game for football-wise. I don't know fantasy-wise if I'm real interested. It's -6.5 in favor of Seattle right now. It opened at 6. And the over-under hasn't changed on my book. It's at 46 still. One note I do want to toss out there for you guys. Everyone's kind of afraid of like the Seahawks passing defense. But here are some notable receiving lines I've seen against them this year. Mike Evans, 5 for 99, 1 touchdown. Amari Cooper, 5 for 71. Colby Fleener, 7 for 109, 1 touchdown. Brandon Coleman, 7 for 78. Michael Thomas, 7 for 71, and 1 touchdown. Greg Olsen was 6 for 76 with a touchdown. That was mostly garbage time, though. I will note that. And Emmanuel Sanders got him for 7 for 80. So I'm not saying you should play Julio in cash, but you look at the caliber receivers that put up those kind of numbers, and you look at it and you're like, people are putting up decent games against the Seahawks, but I think the Seahawks honestly lay it down on the Falcons this game. I'm all over Seattle -6.5. That's probably gonna be one of my bets. But I think the most interesting part of this game to me is Christian Michael, who the running back that everyone forgot about. I feel like it's been 2 weeks since we've last seen him, and people forget that he pretty much has been their only efficient offense, aside from maybe the emergence of Jimmy Graham a little bit, with Russell Wilson being a little bit hobbled. But now he's healthy again. I like me some Christian Michael. Yeah, I'm not going to be playing him in cash. I'm probably not going to be playing anybody in this game in cash. But I definitely am going to have a Seahawks stack in the GPP. I think that is the way I'm going to end up rolling with this. Do you guys have any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I actually was looking, and I'm looking at the 4:05 late Sunday, Monday slate. I actually had Russell Wilson, Michael, and Jimmy Graham all in there together. I think that they score a lot of points, and I think they might actually beat up on Atlanta a little bit. So for a tournament right now, I have all 3 of those guys locked in. I think
this is a game where Wilson really gets back his grind. I know he just had, like 310, 315-yard game in their last game, which is nice to see because he was pretty banged up. So I really don't mind that. I think I would have to avoid all Falcons. Outside of, for possibly very, very low ownership, Tevin Coleman at 5,900. He's been doing a lot with his touches. He's broken off a lot of nice runs. He's seeing a lot of targets. I can see him busting one off. It wouldn't surprise me in the least.
Yeah, he's honestly been very, very consistent, aside from his week against Carolina. And we didn't even expect him to have a huge game in Denver with the sickle cell disease. Weird. See, that's just the kind of shit that happens in DFS sports. But, Eric, do you have anything for this game?
Right now I'm kind of holding off. There's some reports of some pretty bad weather, I guess, going on in this game. So I kind of want to see how that plays out as far as the forecast before I make a decision. Originally, I was going to definitely be stacking Seattle a couple different ways because I like Doug Baldwin out of the slot, and Jimmy Graham's been playing really well. You listed off some names that have had some pretty solid receiving days against Seattle. But to me, a lot of those guys you listed are, number 2 or 3 wide receivers and then a tight end. For years, the way to beat Seattle in the passing game was to target your tight end. So for that reason, I might have a little bit of Jacob Tamme if the weather shakes out. Otherwise, the one play that I will use from Atlanta will be Tevin Coleman. Seattle's 25th against running backs in the passing game. So that's something that intrigues me quite a bit. But aside from that, I do think that Seattle kind of takes it to Atlanta here. Atlanta's been playing a little over their head in my eyes. So I could see Seattle's defense being an interesting play because in the past we have seen Matt Ryan throw a few interceptions. So he could easily come back down to earth and turn the ball over 3-4 times.
I can already see it right now, like Richard Sherman picking off Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan is getting plowed over by a lineman, and then all of a sudden he's like Matt Ryan is just shook, and he goes back to the guy who just poops down his pants majority of the game. But that kind of wraps it up for that game, in my opinion. Last 2 games here. I don't know if you have much interest in the Cowboys at Packers game. I see 47.5 over under, where they love Green Bay minus 4.5. But if I've told you guys once, I've told you 1,000 times, I never have ever been able to bet on Green Bay and them win for me. So here I might get myself into some shit again. But honestly, I'm not playing anyone in cash games. And I don't really have much love in a GPP, except maybe a little bit of Jordy Nelson, I guess. I don't know. I'm not really that interested in playing this game. Cobb got really fucked up last week with that neck injury, and I would have loved to play him, but I don't know how that's going to work. If he's healthy, I don't even know if I want to touch him. And I think this is where the Cowboys kind of collapse as a team overall, and the rookies show that they are rookies. And I think Aaron Rodgers could light it up. I might have him in the GPP, but all in all, I'm not really interested in playing in this game. But I think I might be betting the Packers minus the 4.5. What are your thoughts here, Eric?
Well, living in Packer country, I want to bet the Cowboys plus the points. I just think the Cowboys right now are playing as a better team than the Packers. So that's why, the line's telling me that they think the Packers are a better overall team on a neutral field, and I don't think that's the case. The one big question for me is the Cowboys running game versus this Packers defense. The Packers defense leads the NFL in rush defense right now, but look at who they faced as far as running backs. So none of them anywhere near the way Elliott's playing right now. Obviously one of the running backs is AP, but he also got hurt that game too. So I don't really know where to go in this game, and I might not have any pieces in this game. But Cobb did practice today, last that I read. So he actually does intrigue me a little bit if he's 100% healthy, because the Cowboys defense has done a pretty good job against number 1 wide receivers. But yeah, aside from Cobb or Ezekiel Elliott, I don't think I want to touch anybody in this game.
All right,
Even
what about you,
Rodgers.
Jim? Yeah, maybe
If
Rodgers.
no-
We'll see. But
If no exposure to anyone on either team, I'm not on this game whatsoever.
boom, simple as that. I think
That's
the
it.
Packers end up winning though. All right, and the last game here, what we're all looking for: Colts, Texans, Brock Lobster, baby. Eric, tell me about why you love Brock Lobster. After I tell you that Indy, the spread is now -3 in favor of Houston, and the over under has the biggest jumps thus far, and it's up to 48.5. Eric, Brock Lobster, the Brock Star. What else?
Well,
What's another nickname?
That,
Rocket Ship.
oh,
The Rocket Ship.
that sounds perfect. The Colts defense against the pass is absolutely terrible. And Osweiler came out and said that they have to get Hopkins involved more and get him more targets. And, it just, to me, is setting up to be, a spot where they kind of go off a little bit. A few bad weeks in a row. They've been on the road as well. Now they get to come back home. Osweiler, really cheap as well. This could obviously come back to kill me, but I definitely think he makes a viable GPP play. Because he does have Lamar Miller, Hopkins, and Will Fuller available to him. This should be a game where their offense gets right a little bit. If their offense doesn't this game, then I don't really know when they do this year, and maybe it's just a terrible offense with him running it. I don't really know. But for that reason, I want to try to be ahead of the curve, I guess, so to speak, and to get them before other people start getting on him. So, that's kind of a big reason why I'm on him this week.
There we go. Jim, what about you?
I'm not too interested in much going on the Houston side of things. I do like Will Fuller at 6,900 to have a pretty nice game this week. He's one guy that I consistently have been finding in my lineups whenever I'm building stuff for week 6. On the Colts side of things, I took a quick look at Frank Gore for a cheaper running back option at 6,300. He's pretty much been good for double-digit points just about every week. He's getting 15, 16 carries, and then he's going to give you, 3 or 4 targets. I don't see him as a bad value. I really liked T.Y. Hilton, but I know he's banged up right now with the hip injury. I think he returned to practice today, so that's going to be something I keep an eye on. If he is looking more healthy than not, I'm going to definitely take a look at him. I'm not sure about Cash, more of a GPP play, but that wouldn't be a bad option. I do not like anybody else.
Yeah.
I'll have to shut it down after that.
Yeah, pretty much. I hate playing T.Y. Hilton in cash. I just can't get myself up to do it. He's a deep down the field passer. Receiver. And Andrew Luck's offensive line stinks. But I love Frank Gore. I find myself almost playing him every week, and then I don't, and then I'm like, damn it, because he got you like 12 points, and he's cheap. 6.3 helps you out a little bit. But I definitely love me a Houston stack. And I will toss maybe one Indianapolis player in there. It's got one of the higher over-unders. This week, all of the games are pretty much between like 44 to 47. And then there's like the 54 over-under in Seattle, New Orleans, the Coors Field of the NFL. But all in all, that wraps us up here with Setting the Edge NFL Week 6 Daily Fantasy Sports and Gambling Preview. I will be tweeting out my NFL picks probably within the next day or two. I might have a play for tonight, probably not sure. But definitely on Sunday, check me out on Twitter at VonR16. I'll be tweeting out college football picks, my NFL pick, and then I'll be chatting about my cash lineup and how I'm putting it together. Make sure you guys follow the website. www.settingtheedge.weebly.com. Find us on SoundCloud, Setting the Edge 69, and then on Twitter at Setting the Edge _. From Eric Rasmussen, right? Did I get it right? Rasmussen. Jesus fucking Christ. He is at Razzle11Grinds on Twitter. He's a contributor for the DraftKings Playbook as well as the DFS Report. Jim Patelis, the Jim Dean King, owner of King's Court DFS Service. And shout out to Ryan Zammo. I know he's watching us right now but can't be on. Another member of the Setting the Edge crew. Formerly Moxie Ball with myself, and then the president of the Joel Embiid Club. Joel Embiid Fan Club. Are there any final words you guys have to our listeners and viewers here?
My final word is I do think you can use T.Y. Hilton in cash.
Okay.
Double-digit targets every week this year. So, and it scored a touchdown in 3 straight games as well. Also, look at his history versus Houston. You'll be very, very happy with what you see.
I got to go take another deep dive on into that. Jim, King's Court, any final words out there?
No, not too much. Let's just go win some more money. Thanks again for having me, and anybody who's looking for lineups, come give me a follow and give me a DM. I'm ready.
All right, guys. Thanks again for coming on. It's always great content. I'll make sure to tweet out all this good stuff for you guys. And best of luck. Salut. Let's win some money, boys. Have a good one.
Bye.